you up to speed with everything that Google's doing in this area and what you can use to do your awesome projects and so forth. So let's get started. So computing has evolved over the years. So we started from mainframes, we went to desktops, we went to laptops, we went to phones. And every decade, computers have gotten smaller and smaller. But clearly, we can't keep making them smaller forever because then you wouldn't be able to hold it in your hands. If you had a computer the size of a coin, you couldn't touch it or interact with it, whatever. So there's clearly a limit to how small we can make things go. Now, over time, what has happened is that we've also moved into different kinds of devices. So most people nowadays have a phone, but we also have computing devices in cars and on TVs and on Android Wear devices. So computers have gotten smaller, form factors like this, but we're now using them in different ways. We're not using a keyboard or a mouse like we did before. So we use different devices depending on what we're trying to do. So for example, if you want to write an email, a laptop's the best place to do that. If you want to watch videos, you use a TV. If you want to use something while you're out and about, use a phone, and then use a wearable while you're walking or when you're not sitting down. So each of these devices has a specific purpose, and we use them for those specific tasks. We don't want to use a watch to try to write an email. That just doesn't make any sense. We're now moving into a world now where computing is going to disappear. It's going to disappear in all our different devices that we have. So we're going to have thermostats and light bulbs that have computers inside them. And we're moving to a world where computing is going to be everywhere. You're not going to have a device to do something. You're going to just use computing everywhere you go. And we're going to solve problems for people that we didn't even know existed. We're going to look back on this and go, wow, that was incredible when this certain device came out. And today I'm going to enable you to build that really cool device. So I had someone ask me today, they're like, oh, this IoT thing isn't going to go very far, right? I predict it's going to be even crazier than anything we've ever seen before. We sold hundreds of millions of personal computers, and then we sold billions of smartphones. And in the future, I think what's going to happen is you're not just going to have a couple IoT devices, you're going to have 20 or 30 or 50 devices. And so you're going to have this explosive growth in computing, and this is where your devices are going to be. And so we use the term ubiquitous computing to describe where computing is everywhere, it's accessible wherever they are, and whatever they're doing. And so today we're going to talk about the platforms that Google provides to enable you to participate in this, because IoT is going to be bigger than anything you've seen before. So if you thought phones were big, this is the next thing. So let's talk about the kinds of things that Google can offer you to help build your new products. So in the past, we trained users to install apps on their devices. You had one app for each kind of task. And you had an icon that you launched it with and so forth. But now we have devices that don't even have screens. So we need to think differently about computing. We need to think about what it means. We need to think about the user's context, what they're doing, the time, the location, and their physical activity. And that determines how we're going to go about interacting with them and what kind of computing they can build. You need to think of your app no longer as an app, but think of it as a view into a service. And your service is going to be everywhere. So your service is available on wearables, in the living room, in the car. It's going to be everywhere. And that's how you need to think about it. You need to have a seamless experience. You don't want to have to use the app and log in on each platform. You want to make it really easy so that they can get started without having to think about the fact that there's different devices. So what do we have to offer you that you can use to help make these kinds of devices to support ubiquitous computing? Firstly, let's summarize what we have as consumer platforms, and we're going to start off with talking about Android devices. So many of you here are Android developers, because it's GDD India, and we have many different Android devices that you've probably seen before. So we have Android phones, we have Android tablets, which are very common, and then Android Wear and Android TV and Android Auto have also come out as new experiences, new platforms for people to do Android on different kinds of devices. Now, the cool thing about all of these platforms is that they're still based on Android Studio, you write APKs, and you can do all kinds of things. You can write apps, games, sensor processing, you can do 3D graphics, you can do audio, and many of you write apps for some of these platforms already. And the good news is that if you're an Android phone or a tablet developer, you already know how to write for Android Wear or Android TV. it's literally the same thing. They all support networking, they all support Google Play, and it's very easy to port. So if you've ever thought, what other platforms can I get into, writing an Android Wear or an Android TV app is something that you might want to consider. Android Auto is a little different because you don't write apps that run directly on the screen. What you do is you write templates for either messaging or media apps, and these run on your phone. And the way Android Auto works is your phone plugs into the head unit in the car and it projects video and audio. Alternatively, you can run Android Auto on your phone and mount the phone on the dash of the car. So the nice thing about Android Auto is it provides a simplified user experience to allow people to listen to music and do messaging while they're driving. So we've got lots of different form factors to cover all of the different things that users might be doing. And each of them are appropriate at different times, while on the go, or in your home in the living room. You also may have heard about the Google Assistant. And so the Google Assistant and the Google Home devices are new ways of interacting with customers as well. And so each of these platforms here are extended by the Google Assistant. So we started off with Google Home devices, but now you can use the Google Assistant on a phone. You can also use it on different platforms such as Android TVs, Google Pixel books. It's coming soon to Wear and Auto. And it's great because it's everywhere and users can just talk to it or type to it to get things done by talking to the Google Assistant. So if you haven't tried it before, you definitely want to check out the Google Assistant to see how it feels, and you can have really awesome conversations with it, and it feels really natural. It's not like talking to a robot, and it's a very compelling experience that makes really nice conversations. So as I said, the Google Assistant works with both text and voice-based inputs, and it has text and voice-based outputs, and it works with the user, whatever they're doing, and whatever they're doing as well. And the good news is that we've launched the Google Assistant in all kinds of countries and locales all around the world. And recently, a couple of weeks ago, we launched the Google Assistant in India for English languages. And these are all the different languages that we support, so you can see we've got a bunch of them covered. And we're always launching new languages, so more are coming soon, so stay tuned if you're interested in other languages. And so the nice thing is that we have coverage for lots of different users all around the world. So those are examples of the consumer platforms that Google provides that consumers have in their homes, or in their cars, or walking around. So now we're going to talk about what you as a developer can use to participate in these ecosystems to provide services and allow users to interact with your app. Because there are a bunch of new options you're going to find interesting. Now let's go through them. So the first thing is that end of last year we announced a developer preview for Android Things. And Android Things is now Google's new platform to support developers who want to build their own IoT devices. And one of the coolest things about Android Things is it's based around this concept of a SOM, which is this board here. So the board's about 2 by 2 centimeters, and it contains the CPU, wireless chip, memory, and all the important things that makes a device do what it does. And it's on a common board with a common set of software. And you can buy these SOMs in bulk and cheaply, and you can plug them into your own custom boards that are manufactured really cheaply. And the SOM contains all of the expensive, hard-to-design components, and then you can build a small board around it that has your electronics for your application. And so we really want to try to democratize hardware development to make it really easy. Because in the past, hardware development has been limited to big companies with large budgets. But with Android Things, you as an Android developer who's experienced with Android and with tooling can now develop for IoT as well. And you can make your own hardware and participate in the IoT ecosystem that we mentioned is going to be the next big thing. So you start off with a developer board. So you can see at the top we have a developer board there, and the SOM plugs into it. You take the SOM away, and you've got this developer board that breaks out all the different connectors. So it has things like USB, audio, GPIO pins, I2C buses, and so forth. You build your prototypes with these boards. So you plug things in, test it out, and then when you're done, you then make your own custom board that plugs into the SOM, and it allows you to make things that are really tiny, but you can prototype on something bigger as well. And so my colleague Dave Smith, he actually built his own small little LED candle. It's kind of a basic example of the simplest thing you could build with Android Things. The code for it's on GitHub, so check it out if you're interested. And basically, he prototyped it on on the board on the left, and on the right, you can see he manufactured his own custom printed circuit board that shows you how tiny you can make an IoT device. So it's literally this big, and it's everything. It's got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, it can link some device, it does OTA updates, and it's fully self-contained, and it's really easy to work with, and you can develop in Android Studio. So that is the really cool thing about Android Things, is it allows you to make your own custom IoT devices, and you don't need to have a huge budget to do it. And this is something you can do yourself, and all the schematics and source code for this are available online as well. So what makes Android Things awesome is it's based on the power of Android. So you use all of the existing Android APIs that you're familiar with, and it's a variant of Android, just like Wear, TV, or Auto. So it's supported by the Android ecosystem and the Android team at Google, and you can use Android Studio to write your code, use all the same libraries and APIs, everything's included. It's also a real Android device, so it includes Google Play services designed for IoT devices. So it's a minimized version that runs, and it has everything that you've used from Google Play services before. As I said before, Android Things is based on a SOM architecture. So the modules are standardized, and Google supports them with what is called a common board support language, a board support package, a BSP. And this BSP is provided by Google and is supported by us. And we provide the Linux kernels, we port them over, we maintain them, and we also provide all the necessary security updates as well. So our team at Google that maintains the security updates for Android phones, we also provide the same updates for Android Things devices. And so when a security update needs to be pushed out, Google has the ability to push them out to these IoT devices so that you don't have to worry about that yourself. So you can focus on what makes your IoT application great, and Google handles all the security updates and drivers and all that kind of stuff like that. And we provide an over-the-update mechanism that supports pushing the updates so you don't have to write this yourself. If any of you have developed IoT devices before, you'll know that you have to do your own kernels, you have to build your own OTA infrastructure, and this stuff is very time-consuming and very expensive, so it's something you don't have to worry about. So we see many things that you can do with Android Things. And a lot of people ask me, Wayne, why should I use Android Things compared to a small microcontroller or something like that? Now, microcontrollers are cool because they're cheap and they do simple things like turn on and off lights or control a dial or something like that. But what you can't do with a microcontroller is really powerful things like computer vision, audio processing, and machine learning. These are things that you can't do on a small microcontroller, but it's something that you can do on an Android Things device. And over time, as computing gets cheaper and cheaper, as it always does, IoT devices are going to get so cheap that it's going to be possible to do machine learning and TensorFlow and all these things on super cheap devices in the same way that we use microcontrollers now. And so one of these great examples that we put together is running TensorFlow and Android Things. And so the same TensorFlow talks that you've seen at this event and at Google I/O previously, all of those things you can run on Android Things devices as well, because we're just an Android platform as well. So we have a sample here that it has a camera and it takes pictures of dogs, and you can see in this example here, when it takes a picture of my dog, it correctly identifies her breed. Now this is not just saying dog or cat, it actually tells you the kind of dog, specifically with the percentage point. And so TensorFlow has this thing called the Google Inception model, which is trained with millions of photos that have been put through the system, and this model is capable of analyzing images and telling you what they are. You can actually have this demo actually set up in the sandbox area. You can try it out for yourself, and we also have the code on GitHub, so you can try it out on your Android Things or on your phones as well. So it's a very simple example of how you can use TensorFlow on an Android Things device. So there's all kinds of really cool applications that you can use this for, and we look forward to seeing what you build with that. Now, we talked about the Google Assistant earlier. It's also possible to extend the Google Assistant. And you can write your own apps for the Google Assistant using Actions on Google, which is our platform that is for developers to hook in their own conversations into the Google Assistant. And we have a tool called Dialogflow. And Dialogflow is a very simple to use user interface tool. It's web-based that you program your conversations into, and it makes it really easy to make conversations. Now, a lot of people think, well, conversations are easy, you just process some strings. But those are only for simple things like yes or no answers. But if you want to really converse with a computer, you want to have a natural conversation with it. And Google Assistant supports natural conversations. And in a minute, we'll show a video that shows how this works. So these conversations that you develop, they run in the cloud. They're based on a webhook that you develop using JavaScript. And they receive text that's transcribed from Google that has the conversation that was spoken to the action. It gives it to you. You can then decide what the reply will be, and then you send it back. Now, you can do this yourself. You can process the strings manually. Most developers don't want to do that. And so we have the dialog flow tool that provides it for you. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you a little video that demonstrates sort of a conversation and what it would sound like when you're interacting. Okay, Google, let me talk to Personal Chef.
Sure, here's Personal Chef. Hi, I'm your personal chef. What are you in the mood for?
Well, it's kind of cold outside, so I'd like something to warm me up, like hot soup, and I want it fast.
Alright, what protein would you like to use?
I have some chicken, and also some canned tomatoes.
Okay, well I think you should try the chicken tomato soup recipe I found on example.com.
Sounds good to me. Okay, so let's look at what we just saw in that video. I was chatting to Google Assistant then, but that was very natural. I wasn't talking like a robot. I was just like, yeah, I want some chicken soup, it's kind of cold outside, so I want something to warm me up. And that was a very normal conversation that you'd have with a person. And the sentences I spoke were quite complicated too. If you look at the sentence, I asked for a hot soup because I wanted to be warmed up because it's cold outside. So I said the words warm, hot, and cold all in the same sentence. And somehow the Google Assistant was able to extract the meaning out of that and get it correctly. Now, if you were writing simple regular expressions looking for the words hot or cold, you wouldn't have got that right because I said too many different words. But it was all about processing the sentence structure. And so trying to process this yourself is really hard. And so the dialog flow tool makes this really easy. And the way it does it is using machine learning. So the dialog flow tool, you type in example sentences, like you can see the examples there, chicken sounds good to me, I'd like a cold dessert. You type in different examples, and then it trains a machine learning model to understand other sentences that a user might speak. And so we programmed in some examples like that, and then when we made that video, I spoke completely differently and said different things, but it still understood what I was asking for. And so dialog flow allows you to implement these conversation interfaces really easily. The graphical tool helps you to identify the entities, and that's it. So it's definitely a tool you should check out to learn about how to build conversations for the Google Assistant. Because when I saw this tool, I was like, wow, this makes everything easy, and I don't have to worry about doing the conversation myself. So definitely check that out. So with the Google Assistant, we also have the ability to embed it into your own custom devices. So we talked about Android Things earlier. You can run the Assistant SDK on an Android Things device, and you can make your own custom hardware devices that have the Assistant embedded into them. So you can make like toys or robots or whatever, and you can talk to them using the Google Assistant and dialog flow, and then you can make them do things. And you don't have to implement the conversation yourself. So once again, really easy, and you can embed the Assistant SDK into any of your custom devices. And you may have seen that AIY projects kit, that works with the Google Assistant SDK. And basically this kit is just a speaker, a microphone, and a button, and then you've got a device. And so in the sandbox area, you can see some examples we have of the Google Assistant SDK running on the device. And you can embed the Google Assistant into pretty much anything. So there's lots of possibilities for people to try different kinds of ideas. And if you look here, this is the inside of what the Assistant SDK kit looks like. Very simple. And the other cool thing about the Assistant SDK is it works on many different platforms. So we've got support for Android Things, but we also have support for just basic Linux machines, and it also works on top of many other platforms because it's portable and it uses what's called gRPC. So I've seen people run it on all kinds of platforms that are not Linux and not Android based. There's a lot of options of what you can use the Assistant SDK for. So that's some possibilities of different platforms that we have. Android, Google Assistant, Actions on Google, Assistant SDK. But you might want to connect these things up because we mentioned before that it's important to have an ecosystem of platforms that allow people to use your service from many different places depending on what they're doing. So now we're going to talk about connectivity and how to bring them all together. So the Google Assistant supports a new API that we have called Smart Home. And so Smart Home allows device makers, so let's say you're a startup that's making IoT-based light bulbs, or thermostats, or air conditioners, or something like that. Smart Home is the API that we use to integrate those devices in with the Google Assistant. So we have this concept called a home graph, and it has an API, called Smart Home, and you implement the Smart Home API on your service, and then whenever the user says something like dim the lights in the room, turn the air conditioning up, the Google Assistant processes that, and it then sends commands to your service saying, turn the temperature up 5 degrees, or turn the light bulbs up to bright, or something like that. So you implement the API for your devices, and the assistant can then control them. And so from a user's perspective, it's great because they can have devices made by many different companies, and they can communicate with all of them at the same time. And the home graph brings them all together. And so it's definitely something you want to look at if you're building IoT-based devices for common household tasks. And here's sort of a diagram that shows you how it works. You don't write a full conversation like you do with dialogue flow because the Google Assistant handles the conversational part of it. You just implement the API for hooking your device into our home graph, and that's it. And then the user has the ability to speak these commands, and then make the light bulbs and thermostats and all these other things change state. Finally, many of you have heard about Firebase. You've used it before. So all of Firebase functionality works in Android things, and so it's nice because you can use it on Android, iOS, Android Things devices, and you can use Firebase to implement communications between all those different platforms. And Firebase Cloud Messaging is really important because it allows you to build push notifications to your devices. So if you look at badly implemented IoT devices, when someone adjusts the temperature on their phone or the thermostat, it'll take 5 minutes sometimes for the thermostat to adjust. But Firebase Cloud Messaging implements push notifications so that those changes take effect immediately without having to wait, without having to do inefficient polling. So it's definitely something that you should be using if you want to sync data between devices and do it quickly and efficiently. Firebase also provides a real-time database and cloud storage that you can use to synchronize data, store images and videos and so forth. And it's nice because, once again, it's cross-platform, but it also works on very small microcontrollers as well. So we have some samples, like, for example, GitHub.com, Firebase Arduino. We can actually implement Firebase on really, really tiny microcontrollers. So not even Android Things class devices, but something very small. And so it implements across all those platforms as well. And so definitely Firebase is something you want to check out because you don't need to implement your own cloud infrastructure yourself. A lot of developers try to build this stuff themselves, and it takes a lot of time, and it's important that you do it securely. Because if you don't do it securely, then someone will hack in your service, and then all your data gets compromised and so forth. So Firebase is nice because it handles all the hard aspects of what you're trying to build so that you can focus on building your application. And then at Google I/O this year, we announced what's called Google Cloud IoT Core. The cool thing about Google Cloud IoT Core is it's really designed to scale up to like worldwide IoT device infrastructure. Most companies know how to build something for thousands of devices or tens of thousands, but Google Cloud IoT Core is designed to scale all around the world. And so it's something that the cloud team themselves put together, and it's designed to scale with millions of devices. It has endpoints all around the world so that it handles dealing with traffic coming from everywhere. And you don't need to worry about provisioning, and it adds redundancy to everything that we've built as well. Now, it uses standard protocols like MQTT to get data from devices and aggregate and store them into the cloud infrastructure. And so it's great for enterprise use, and we have a lot of enterprise customers who've asked for these kind of features because they want to roll out millions of devices, and they want to have all the infrastructure to handle data coming in from millions of devices constantly, all day, every day. Trying to build that yourself is quite tricky. And then once the data is in Google Cloud, you can then use cloud services such as BigQuery to go and query and analyze these massive data sets to reduce them to something that you can look at and learn more about. So one of my colleagues, Gus Class, is here, and he's talking about Cloud IoT in another session. So definitely go check that out if you want to learn about building really big cloud IT infrastructures and what's possible with their software. So that was a very big whirlwind tour of all of Google's products to support ubiquitous computing and the Internet of Things. So we hope that's going to help you to make really amazing devices that are powerful and that are also secure. Because in the past, a lot of companies have built devices that are not secure, and then consumers have the data stolen, and devices get broken into, and it causes problems for everyone. And consumers want to buy well-made devices that get updates and that are maintained so that they can trust them. And so Google's services that we provide that I went through today help to provide many of the pieces that you need so you can fit them together to build the kinds of devices and infrastructure that people want. So we have a sandbox area over in the main area outside this building. You should definitely come by and check out some of the demos that we have. We have a variety of different Android themes, Android SDK, and Google Assistant demos that you can try out and see how they're built and so forth. And also, many of my team members have actually come out to talk to you because we want to learn more about the kinds of things that you want to build. So while we're here to teach you about things, we also want to learn more about what kinds of really cool ideas you've got for things you want to build and how we can help enable them. And if there's new features that you want or something, definitely come and talk to me or my colleagues because we want to hear about what they are and what kinds of things you want. So what's next? We have many different resources for you to learn more. And so we have a bunch of communities on Google+. We have one focused on IoT developers, so Android themes, cloud IT, different things like that. We have an Actions on Google community for developing for Google Assistant. We then have an Assistant SDK community for people who are embedding an Assistant SDK into their own custom devices. And so these three communities are great places to ask questions and share ideas. Also, I do a lot of posting on social media. I'm Google's developer advocate for IoT and Assistant and so forth. So definitely follow me on Twitter or Google+. If you want to keep up to date with what's going on, I post a lot about different tools and new things that we're doing. And so definitely keep up to date with that. So that was a quick little summary of what Google has to offer you. And so I want you to take this away and think about all the different possibilities of things that we can make and what kinds of devices that help benefit people. So think of people who are less fortunate or might not be able to use a regular computer. They might have accessibility issues, and think about how they could benefit from more computing in their lives and what ubiquitous computing could do to help them perform tasks they can't currently perform, or to help make their lives better. So think about this, and as I said before, IoT is going to be a huge thing. It's going to be bigger than computers, bigger than phones. It's going to be way bigger than that, and so definitely want to be a part of it. So come by our sandbox and say hello, and I'm really excited to see what you build with this. Thanks for coming. All right, thanks a lot. See you later.